it gets you, it seeps into your soul, and then it's just, you can't really get it out of you.
What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guest is an experienced interior designer, brand specialist, strategic growth expert, and team leader. She's got over 20 years of experience in the interior design industry, and she's worked with such incredible firms like Tony Chi in New York, and she brings a deep expertise in hospitality, branding, development, and business growth. She's also worked with major hospitality companies like Marriott's Moxie brand and Bridgeton. She is an associate principal of hospitality at B2 Design Co. in Austin, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Hopkins. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dan. It's great to see you.
And for all of our avid listeners and raving fans, you'll be happy to know that this is one of the few boomerang episodes where Steph has come back. And I think it's also important to note that Stephanie was really one of the first official fans of the podcast that came up, that I didn't know, that came out of nowhere. And just to set the stage, I did a panel at some trade show. I was walking off and I saw you and one of your colleagues. I didn't know you. I was talking to one of your colleagues who moved from Hyatt over to Marriott, also who was on the podcast at one point. And I said, "Oh, I'd love to have you on the podcast." And she's like, "I didn't even know you had one." And then you said, "Wait, are you Dan Ryan? Oh my God, I love your podcast." So I am forever grateful for that. And then also you set me up really well with Marriott. So like every quarter I don't want to say you can probably describe what the thrust of that initiative was that you were championing to get design folks from Marriott out there to like really celebrate and the design element of what you guys have all been doing at Marriott. But that was just really important to me. And I know that you're not at Marriott anymore. I think the other thing that I really want to chat with you about is, okay, the typical career path in the design side of our industry is you work as a designer, you become a director, a level of management, but like not everyone, but most everyone seems to want to go to brand, to ownership, to a developer, right? That seems to be the normal trajectory. And what I've seen is, you moved to Austin and now you're working at a design firm, but you've developed this incredible set of skills working at Marriott that now you're helping where you're helping where you are now, navigate that labyrinth of all the other brands because you know how to go and get things approved and get it done. Did I say that correctly?
You did. And I'll go back to being the first fan. I feel like I need some sort of like maybe a button that I could wear and just be like, first fan, just defining hospitality.
Done. I'll get a button making machine press.
And that was a great intro. So that initiative at Marriott was kind of getting the global design. So kind of GDUSC, so the team members who are kind of the ones partnering with the owners and actually like helping their projects get built. I think sometimes we were all talking as a team and we had an initiative of getting those voices out there. So I think you had a bunch of different really great guests from that I can roll off. But I know, and also, I mean, that was right when we were finishing the HQ. So I know you had a good one with Rado at one point in time. That was really fun.
Oh yeah. And also you were one of the few in-person ones I've done in the HQ. Yeah. That was super fun.
It was great because also it was right after COVID. I don't think we had not even been in the building. You and I had been in the building the same amount of times. when we did that. We're in person, so it was really great. I think there are so many great things about it. But um, yeah, so now during COVID, you're right. I moved to Austin, relocated, and found myself here. And when I was kind of picking my head up, this opportunity kind of came up, and I don't. There were so many things that I didn't see coming. I didn't really know. I knew I could help build like the hospitality. I knew I could help build that, but I didn't realize even then kind of how strong the relationships were and how important
Mm,
that was going to be to the ownership groups that we were working with around the Marriott kind of knowledge. I think it's the kind of some of the friendships or the, relationships that I had when I was there. But not even that. I think it's just like the work ethic that I had and me being who I am and them knowing that they can trust me with a project from a Marriott side. They know that I can help execute the brand to be brand aligned and all the things that you need it to be. I understand what that means. I understand how to be the partner because I was on the other side needing interior design firms to be that partner for me when I was working at Moxie. So I understand what all that means. And I think that's missed, sometimes. Maybe not on all firms, but I think sometimes that's missed, and I think that's really what's appreciated, and then the ownership group appreciates that too.
mm, totally. And I want to dig into that a lot more
Yeah.
because obviously it all relates to that relationship and how important relationships are in everything, but specifically in hospitality. So before we go a step further, what does hospitality mean to you? And tie in that career trajectory change and why you decided to stay in hospitality. Because I'm sure, Austin's a booming town. When you were there, when you were trying to figure out what was next, I'm sure there were a ton of opportunities, but what kept you grounded, or what was the gravitational pull that you couldn't get escape velocity and get away from us in hospitality?
I mean, well, I think I think that goes without saying. I mean, there's so many times that I don't know. I think hospitality is it I think the bug bites you and then you just kind of can't leave it. I think there's so many times that you feel like there are ups and downs. There have for sure been a lot. I was not part of hospitality in 2008, 2009, but I was, still in an adjacent kind of industry. But since COVID, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and I think there's been times where probably lots of people have considered, is this really the right place to be? And for me, each time I think about it, or I go back to it, or I think about what's next, all the people that I go to for advice are in hospitality. And whether or not they advise me to stay, it just kind of reminds me that it is just something that it kind of it gets you, it seeps into your soul, and then it's just you can't really get it out of you. Like it's just ingrained into you. The people um are obviously, you know, the biggest bonus, but it's really just the relationships that kind of for me span way beyond hospitality. It's way beyond that of like kind of the friendships that I've made and the people um that are kind of part of my tribe, and that's really what keeps me here. And most of the time I still really like it every single day. There are moments, don't call me on those bad days, but most of the time I still really just love it. And so for me, defining hospitality, how I define hospitality, um, it's still kind of the same. I think, last time we talked a lot about growing up and what that experience was like. And my mom always entertained. I talked about that and how we had the house that everybody came to, and she had the house set a certain way, everything looked a certain way, that little throw pillow, all the details my mom paid attention to, had the candle going, the music on, the food, always had the food kind of waving through. So I think that has been just a part of how I've defined it, and I think that was really as I was learning to be a designer. So it's that moment, it's kind of that full view, that full experience from when you drive. You come up and approach the hotel. What is your experience like as you're driving up the portico share? How do you control all of those experiences? Right when you step in the door, what do you hear? What do you smell? What do you see? Um, up to kind of that point of, your first interaction with with the hotel staff and what that's like. And then,
Mm,
the bar and the ambiance and the vibe. So to me, hospitality is that whole full picture. It's bringing all of those things in together, and I think even I still think that even now. So I was, I was happy to hear that I still think I define it the same way. Well, I still think that I think about that a lot with our team as we're kind of going into a project and, we look at something and we're like, "Is that in our scope?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, because it encompasses all of this stuff." So, yeah, it's in our scope because it's what's best for the project and it's what we kinda need to do to have this really great experience.
Um, so aside from your definition of hospitality not changing from the first time we spoke, which is expected, right? Because it comes
Really? I was like, "Has it changed?" I was like, I was happy to know that it was like I was like, "Still
no,
resonating."
because
We
it's
do
from your that's why the most successful conversations here are the ones that are from the heart, right? So the definition is in your heart and
Yeah.
it's not going to change. So you're aligned there. But one of the things I heard you say 5 or 6 times was the word relationship. And just not just beyond or and beyond just friendships and colleagues and everything else. There's a love of kind of what you do and who you do it with. And I think one of the reasons why I'm really excited to talk to you today is it's a weird time in our industry now. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of reorganizations. There's a lot of like cost cutting. People who had one career path are now on a different career path. But I think what most people don't know, and you alluded to this as you were talking, but as we all do what we do, it's actually incredible how many people I talked to before coming on this show, and I'm like, okay, so what does hospitality mean to you? Like as on the alignment call, like we talk about it, and a lot of people don't consider what hospitality is. They're just so used to executing it, performing, delivering hospitality, designing for hospitality that it's just like what they do. And that alignment call I have with everyone before the podcast, it's like a clarifying, almost like a coaching session. And it helps them consider the why about what they do, right?
Mhm.
And I think that what's really important is with all the change, we in whatever our vocation is, we do what we do, right? But oftentimes we don't step out of that proverbial batter's box to consider why we do what we do. And I think from your experience being design on the brand side, and now back in design, that whole brand experience helped you develop a set of skills of so that when you're working with one of the hundreds of developers who's working on a Marriott project or any other brand for that matter, you know who to call. You know what the brand is looking for. You know how to give the brand what it wants and satisfy them, but also give the developer what they want. You're very good at balancing the needs of all the different stakeholders and then also but saving time along the way. And I think a lot of people don't consider what they've learned over their vocation and how everyone has a unique set of skills, like Liam Neeson said in the movie Taken when he was going to go kill people. But we all have these set of skills, and oftentimes we don't. It's almost like what color is your parachute? Remember that book from like way back in the day? It's like,
No.
oh,
Okay.
it's like helping to build your resume or find your calling
Mhm.
or find your career path. We all have these special skills, but oftentimes we don't know how to spell them out.
Mhm.
We don't know how to when things change, we don't know how to lean into those special skills and forge a new path.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. Yes, I think it's hard to see yourself from the outside, of course. I mean, this is, I think, what everybody struggles with. I think, during my time frame of kind of like rethinking about what my next steps were, I looked at a bunch of different things and like a bunch, and I talked to a lot of people. But I think what really helped me get clear from even from others was kind of where that value came in. And that's where I think for me, what's a crucial thing that I feel like is where am I going to be a good value add? And so that those skills that were kind of rising to the surface, repeatedly when I was having conversations with, kind of I consider a lot of them my friends and mentors and everybody in the industry, out of the industry. That's what kind of kept rising to the top was, I think you're right. I think working for an ownership, I think being a designer before, working for an ownership group, and then having that brand experience, those are really not everybody has had all of those experiences and thinks about it from all those perspectives. So I think that is really, I think mostly what is really valuable is just really thinking about what is the best for the project always. And that is kind of like navigating those relationships and moving the project along quicker and making sure the brand's happy and making sure that the owner's happy and kind of being that go between. I think that that part of it is honestly it's pretty. I I enjoy it. I find it pretty easy now because but I think it was kind of that training through Marriott that taught me really it was a whole new experience for me when I went there. I didn't really understand the way brands work. And maybe I definitely don't know how
Well,
every brand works, but I
but
understand how Marriott works.
what I'll also say is, but also in all those other brands, everyone that works at all those other brands are a phone call away from you.
Yeah.
Like you know how to find them and how to navigate it, and you know how to hear what's important to them. Because oftentimes people don't know how to read the room. Aside from your special set of skills, I'd never heard of B2 Design Co. before. You
Yeah.
went there, right? So not only do you have this special set of skills, when you or when anyone else goes and starts at a new company to build a specialization within it from your previous specialization, you're bringing a Rolodex, you're bringing a network, you're bringing a whole way and a whole new way of looking at things, doing things, and and building a business to serve that new market.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and again, I want to talk to you about this because I want all those other folks that are out there that maybe are on a new path now to think about how special their unique experience is and how they can bring it other places. And it's not just the unique set of skills, it's also their entire network. It's really fabulous. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I say that all the time to like, I mean, I think the people that I worked with at Tony Chi, Dan, and you probably see people that were early on in your career, I mean, they're SVPs, creative directors, they're running their own firms. They're doing like for those people that I was a junior designer with, and we were like working late into the night and listening to podcasts and, you know, creating faces, doing all the things, chatting on, I think it was Skype at the time that we were running back and forth with chatting. Those people, those relationships I still have kind of, right? And even
Mm,
vendors that I met then are still, they're so I think that network has grown. I've grown with that network. That network has kind of seen me grow. And then I think the additional teams that I worked with while I was at Marriott, that exposure to kind of all the rest of the teams, good, bad, or indifferent, I think, um, those relationships that I had, that experience that I learned through handling so many different projects. You encounter so many issues while you're there. You help different people navigate through those issues. So that is a really unique skill set that not everybody has. Even designers who have been doing this for 20 years haven't seen, 30, 60, 80, 100, 120 projects under their purview and like navigated that historical tax agency issues and this issue or that issue. You get this Rolodex of information that I don't think you for sure don't realize you have at the time. And now like coming back and like helping grow this team and training this team and like teaching them that stuff. But to your point, that Rolodex of people has also come with us, which has been really great and wonderful and really fun to kind of rekindle some of those relationships. I've definitely also been pretty making, I've been pretty cautious, I would say, not cautious, but making sure that my team is ready and can support the
mm,
projects of whatever the projects are. Like I'm definitely really honest. And if it's like and this is somebody out, our CEO, Allison will probably be like, don't say that. But I think if we're not ready for a project and you're like, Steph, I really need you to do this project. And I'm like, well, Dan's my friend. Dan knows I have this integrity. He's going to expect XYZ from me. And if my team is strapped or can't do it, I'm going to be like, thank you so much. We can't do it right now.
yeah.
And I don't think everybody does that. And I don't think everybody would say that. And there's been some different team members that I've been like, wait until we get a little bit more under our belt, or wait until we gel as a team. And I think that's been really important too. And I think people have appreciated that.
So
And
I want to, I want to put a thumbtack in saying no to things, right? Because but before I want to come back to saying no to things, because I
yeah,
think some of the best projects I've ever worked on are the ones I say no to, right? Um, but going back to that special skill set and also that entire network that you and other people like, and again, I'm speaking to the other people who are like, life happens, and then now that they're trying to figure out what to do next, right? You
yeah,
have, and I love Greek mythology, so like it's almost as if you're Theseus. Remember, I don't know if you remember who he was, but he was the guy that went through the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur and left the string behind him. But the labyrinth are those big brands. These big mazes that a lot of developers don't know how to navigate. And
yeah,
it is really a, time is money, right? And if you can save weeks, months by knowing who to call at these brands to get the approval or get on their docket that, hey, we're converting, we're changing a flag, there's a real power to that. Um, One of the things I was recently with the great Khan, Alia Khan, and we were on a panel together. And Marriott gets a lot of flack for having 40, I don't know if it's 40, plus or
I think
minus
it's more
40
than that
brands.
now. Honestly, I
Okay.
can't remember.
But you were the brand champion for Moxie at Marriott, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. So one of the things that she said as I was talking to her in front of all these people was the power of a brand I'm going back to the saying no part and using Moxie as an example. They Moxie and all the other brands, they get very specific and they develop a language around what they are. But more importantly than what they are, it's what they're not and
yeah,
what guests are not attracted to them. And the other thing I learned was out of that 40 brands in the matrix from, I forget what the words are, but like select to luxury and all the different that there is a matrix. I'll throw it up in the YouTube. But one of the things I didn't realize is Moxie is that attempt to get them when they're young, right? And then the ultimate brand like value is to keep those Marriott people who might be using the Bonvoy system, and that's a great moat for Marriott, but it doesn't really keep people there. In a way, it does, but Marriott's done a lot of work on trying to have the consumer, have the guest age with all the brands that they have. Like, so it's almost like
yeah,
there's a lifetime journey, a stepping stone of different brands that people or that guests can like evolve and grow and age with Marriott.
yeah.
So on the saying no part, what did you learn the most about being a brand champion for Moxie at what they say no to or who they attract or saying no is a scary thing, but it's also, I think when you can get into a niche, it's the most powerful thing.
Yeah. I mean, from the brand perspective, I think in that role, you kind of toe the line of helping keep the brand true to like the essence of what it is. And then being able to ascertain, is this decision that you're going to make here about whatever it is, if they don't want to include, some sort of key brand element, is that going to compromise kind of the essence of the brand? So you have to kind of get to that point and you have to say no to some really powerful ownership groups that maybe want to do something because they're used to doing another brand, but you're really trying to protect the essence of what that brand is. You're trying to help the
Mm,
ownership group get there, but you also are trying to protect the brand. It's a really tricky that in itself is a tricky role to be in because it's not always popular role. You're really
mm.
trying to kind of keep that to it. So I think that is the beauty of that saying no there is just or what the hard part about it is that it's just you're telling somebody something they don't wanna hear. You're saying something that they don't like. That's the hard
Mhm.
thing always to do, right? It's hard to say no to anybody. It's hard to say no.
But you're also building a brand like the Moxie is for the younger traveler typically, right? That psychographic. And when you're developing that Moxie perspective, you're you don't want to be all things to all people. Like my dad,
Yeah.
he loved Marriott Courtyards because he knew the iron was in the same place and the TV remote was in the, and as he's telling me, when he told me this, I was like, oh my God, we are so different.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, no, and my parents are the same, which I love. I love for them. They're big, Bon Voy fans, and the whole family is mad that I left Marriott and I don't have the Marriott, friends and family, the Marriott employee discount. But for saying the different brands, Moxie was really kind of the psychographic that you're talking about. I mean, I think there was one time that I was in the elevator next to this like elderly couple, and I was like, "Why do you stay here?" And they were like, "We love it. It's urban. It's always in like whatever the downtown places are. It's no muss, no fuss. The rooms are just simple. They are what they are. We throw our bag down and we go hit the streets." And I was like, that's kind of what you're trying to capture there.
Mhm.
And then I was chatting with a colleague, and he was like, I just, I don't really like Moxie, because of all these things that he said. And I said, well, you're not, that's great. You're not the target guest. So that's pretty good then because there's many other brands within the system that attract you more than that, right? There are tons of other brands that work for him. So that's kind of, um, it was great to kind of be part of that disruptor brand. I think what all of these things have had in common for me is just a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit, right? I think you get that sometimes when you're at a design firm, definitely when you're working for a developer. And then I think for me in that corporate environment, Moxie was really great because it was kind of a disruptor. It was kind of new to the scene that really kind of fed that part. And then now coming back here and helping build this team and build this out, that is also still capturing that for me. So that it's kind of all connected.
Okay. So now I'm glad you brought up this team and where you are now. So what was B2 before you came there as like the hospitality specialist, right? And what is your vision? What's B2's vision as far as you continuing to build out the hospitality practice and work on more and more projects, not like Marriott and other, but like what's the vision and how have you brought in your hospitality lens and how has hospitality changed B2 for the better?
Yeah, that's a great.
And I don't mean that it wasn't good before. I'm just saying I'm biased. I'm biased towards hospitality. So how did hospitality make B2 better?
Yeah. Well, I think, so B2 has been around for almost 20 years, and they started in multifamily, and so they have been doing multifamily for years. That was kind of their bread and butter. The company I'm in Austin, but the company is actually it's headquartered in Dallas, Chicago, and Miami, and so the the
I,
mul
I wanna I wanna pause you right there for 1 second because that panel that I was talking to the great con Alia on,
uh,
it was in front of all these multifamily people. And all the multifamily people were like, gosh, hospitality is like light years ahead of multifamily. Or that's what they said. And then what was really interesting is Alia was like, well, I, okay, I hear you, but you guys have really delivered some amazing products. And from how your technological platforms, the length of term, just all the return to investors, like I sometimes think that multifamily is light years ahead of what hospitality is doing, but really they're just kind of they both feed off of each other in a great way. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you for
no.
contextualizing it with the multifamily.
Yeah, so B2 we've been doing multifamily for years. That is kind of like the base, the foundation. And our CEO, Allison, um, she's really great at diversifying kind of, right? And so we added senior living, and so we do senior living as well. We added student housing, and so we do student housing. So all of these were kind of steps into it. I think we added senior and student maybe 7 to 10 years ago. And then they added a hospitality group, hospitality team. They were lucky to get some kind of in-flight projects. And so when I came on board, we had a little bit of that hospitality foundation started, which was great, and then kind of just building from that and bringing the team. So, I mean, hospitality for B2 has influenced in all great ways. I would say that B2 is really good at always doing and creating, we call it like a lifestyle studio. They're still creating those multifamily spaces, those student housing spaces, those senior living spaces that have like, we still tell a design story and a narrative, and it creates kind of that lifestyle moment. It taps into the locale, the location of where you are. And um, so that is really already captured, which is a huge part of hospitality, right? So, but I think growing this hospitality arm has really opened a lot of doors for us in these other realms because they're like, oh, great. And you guys do hospitality and you understand what that experience is like. And you can bring this into these other spaces that are, I think our student housing, partners that we work with are very interested in that.
Oh, they need
And then
some serious hospitality in there.
well, I mean, some of the student housing ones are really good. I mean, there's some really movers and shakers, I think, doing that. I think even there were some
Oh, I
projects,
haven't
student
seen that.
housing.
My daughter is going to Tulane next year, and she was showing me pictures of the dorms, so I have a very siloed
A
look at
dorm
that.
is different than this. Student housing is off campus, so it's a
Oh,
very
okay.
different than what you're talking about.
Well,
Um,
at Tulane, apparently you're only allowed to live on campus for the first 2 or 3 years. Like, you can't live off, but
yeah.
they're missing the plot there, especially for
Yeah,
the
no.
tuition.
Well, and also I think my dorm was, I remember they were like, "Oh yeah, we built this off of a prison. That's the model of what we built this dorm off of." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
Oh, wow.
I mean, that was, but these off-campus student housing are Dan next level, and they're not inexpensive. So I'm sure you'll get to that part of it too, and we can have another
Oh,
conversation.
no, I
But
don't wanna think about that yet. I can barely get my head through next year and making all that work.
yeah, but it's interesting because you know, they like the developers that we talked to, they're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, we want like they can't have a bar because their clients aren't able to experience a bar in that way, or but they want to have that look and feel. They want to have kind of, the hospitality vibe." I mean, there were some student housing projects that were up for Gold Key Awards. So that just
Oh, I
kind of
did
tells
see that.
you, yeah, that just kind of tells you like how intertwined they all are. So I think that has been kind of where B2 has been. I think really, I mean, I've known Allison for a long time. And so she and I were sitting down catching up and we were kind of talking about things and she was talking about hospitality and I was like bringing in my perspective and just kind of layering that in and that's kind of how this role just kind of created and kind of became what it is today. It was just us talking and me just saying, "Oh," advising a friend of like, "I think maybe you should do this or that, or maybe you should consider this, or maybe you should do that." And so all of that experience and that knowledge that her trying to build a team starting into it, she was
Mm.
like, "Kind of come build this team over here. Like, what would this be like? What would this look like?" And um so that's kind of how it came to fruition and where we're going and what we want to do. I think I, in general, in my heart and soul, just want to work with good people and want to work on good. It doesn't always come to fruition, but I do think like those are the kinds of clients that we're attracting. Those are the kinds of projects that we're on. We're helping, people sometimes like first time hotel developers and sometimes, long term, hotel developers. But I think we're really kind of, bringing that look to it. B2 is growing a lot. We've also added hospitality procurement, and we've always
Shout
done
out to Amber Ely. That was
run out to
amazing.
Ever Ely, woo woo.
So you get to, like, interact with her almost every day because that must be amazing.
You know what? I was thinking today, I literally was about to Teams her and be like, "My least favorite part of my job is that we don't talk more." Because it just is like we're both running our teams, but we've got Amber. We have this amazing design director, Jimmy Young. He is, I think there's some people that you meet out there that are good, and then there are meet people that are great. And Jimmy is really, really great at what he does. He's really great at helping, like at creating the space and the vibes. So I feel really he was already on board. So I think Allison has this great ability to attract really good people, and I just this team that we're building is just really solid and really strong, and we're building it purposefully. I think we're not out there trying to take everything. We're not trying to be the hungry hippo and gobble everything up, but we're taking things we're ready for. We're, stretching and growing in all the right places and it's exciting. But I mean, we have lots of goals and dreams to kind of grow this more, but I absolutely am kind of really purposeful in how we do that.
So in what you were just saying in the first part of that paragraph or chapter was talking about telling a story and a narrative and kind of the process of getting it all together, right? If you were to put on your brand hat, your designer hat, and then your consumer or guest hat, what's a mistake you see a lot of hotels make when they're trying to tell a story?
I think that a lot of times the stories aren't grounded. Like they're not, they're like a bunch, they're phrases and words, or they're saying a lot of things without saying a lot of things, right? This is like this, they're telling it on the paper, but it doesn't come through in the execution. I think one of the projects that we're working on that is super strong is that like the branding relates to what, we got branding from a team. That branding has translated into the narrative and really solid. And every single one of those design pillars is executed in every single portion of like the guest room. The model, like it just resonates 100%. So like every time you see it, you're just like, wow, this is really good because it all connects and ties back to the story. I think oftentimes in seeing this Marriott or seeing these, oftentimes it's like teams will come up with what they think the narrative is, or and somehow it gets lost in the execution, whether it gets lost in as you're putting it into schematic design or design development or CDs or VE, which all that happens, right? Things happen during that process. And when it gets built, and then ensuring that like then the ops team has to pick it up from there.
Yeah.
So the really successful ones are kind of, I think, that take that true the narrative is really grounded, it's really strong. They carry that through every aspect as they're designing. They don't just pick a random light fixture because they like it. They don't just pick a random, styling element, the art. It all kind of really comes back to what the story is.
In that process for that project, was there a separate branding agency that came on, or do you do that internally?
We partner with a lot of different firms, and whether or not we will partner with a firm and whether or not we kind of put it under the B2 umbrella, we don't actually have a full in-house team, but we have a lot of teams that we work with in that aspect. This
Mhm.
one, the ownership group came to us and really just wanted us for the design scope only. And so the branding was done by a different firm and they kind of handed that over to us. But there are some projects that we're talking to now, and we have a partnership with some branding teams, and they're kind of just either white labeling it under us or we're kind of showing, hey, we're a partnership coming at this together.
Great.
So we really work pretty synonymously like that because there's a lot of different projects have different needs, and sometimes
And
owners one group and one group in
who's
charge to kind of deal with.
who's the CEO is Allison?
Yeah, she's Allison.
I
Allison
haven't
Brooks.
I haven't met her. Well, Allison, maybe there's some diversification there into branding because this has been coming up more and more.
Agreed.
And I'll say, even as a manufacturer, um, the projects where the approval processes take the shortest time, like doing all just custom everything. So we're reinventing the wheel every time. The ones that seem to go the smoothest are the ones with those brand pillars, and usually by an outside branding agency, sometimes internal, but where it's very, very strong, and that there's been a lot of um, forethought and investment in that, so that really when it comes down to approvals and like trying to hit that Ceruse just that way, or trying to get that radius or that um, I don't know, that carving detail or whatever that the detail is that's normally a little nebulous and gestural, and it's hard to like make it binary and black and white. The ones that invest in the brand book and the brand pillars, and it's really disseminated amongst all the stakeholders, those approval processes go much smoother because the language is so cut and dry and so clear that there's just a lot less rounds of approvals.
Yeah, I mean, I found that when I was at Marriott too, right? And I think that's the thing that you want. The brand pillars then relate into kind of the narrative or the design pillars. Those are those anchors. I think it's those anchors and taking that through what you're talking about, right? And it's
So that solves the not grounded part, right? Because all that thought is done. Because you said the challenge is where those pillars or the idea of what the brand wants to be, it's not grounded, or the story is not grounded. But now, because of that front loaded work on branding, it's really providing anchors that makes everything more seamless and deep and real.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think it's really tapping into the realness of whatever that story is, right?
Mm.
And the actuality of it. That for me is really where, we're working on a project right now, and we're kind of going through the narrative process, and that's like part of where we're going back and forth with it. It's coming back to the team, Jimmy and I reverbing off of each other, being like, let's just, how do we, like, we need to dig this deeper. We need to take it more. We need to come back to this and really kind of refining and reiterating, and not just taking the first thing that comes across the paper. So that part of it, that's to me, I think what I saw throughout kind of some of my time frames. I'm working on some different moxies, and that even ACs and elements, and that's where the strength, I think, really comes in. And I think if you can go to somebody and ask them what was the design narrative, and if they don't know, if they say, well, there wasn't really a narrative or something like that, that to me is the first time that I'm like, ooh, it makes me kind of wonder about what that end game or end product is gonna be. Is it gonna tell, is it it's not that it's not gonna be a beautiful hotel, but is it gonna have that, like, heart and soul that I think a lot of us retracts, at least a lot of, the hospitality people that I know, what we're really looking for.
I want to go back to the brand hat, the consumer hat, and the designer hat, and then the Stephanie hat, right? Then there's you. Um, you've had all of these different experiences to give you this unique set of skills, right? And this incredible network. Um, what would you say to other people out there that maybe have just gotten reorged or maybe are starting out in their career? What words of advice? Because you've seen it all,
Yeah.
right? So what do you have, like, what's a kernel of wisdom that you could share with them?
I say expose yourself to as much as possible. I think that's kind of what I did. I think I changed paths. I looked for something different. I pushed myself into all the uncomfortable places. I talked to all the people, meaning, like, I talked to several different people when I was, like, changing. And I think a lot of people that are potentially in that reorg spot, it's like, I talked to different vendors about exploring maybe what that would be like. I talked to different people who are adjacent to kind of, design. I talked to designers when I thought I would never go back to a design firm, if I'm gonna be real honest. I didn't think about any of that stuff, but I think it was just like it was really heartwarming to me, the people that reached out to me kind of and were like, wanted to talk to me. I was like, "Yes, I will fly there and have lunch with you, or I'll drive there, I'll do whatever." I think it was those were really filled my cup up a lot and made me feel really great. And those all of those, like, conversations, and then being like, "Well, this isn't a good fit. What do you want?" And talking to them and me helping, that's what formed it all. I think it wasn't that I was like, "Oh, yes, I'm gonna do exactly this." It was kind of all of those different things and wondering about it. That's how I every single job that I have taken, it was kind of like I was at Tony Chi and designing luxury projects, and that was great and wonderful, but the projects were really long. I was young. I wanted to see, I mean, I was younger. I don't think I was young. I was younger. And I really wanted to see different things. So I went to a smaller firm, and we were designing bars and restaurants in New York, and those were fast, and those were fun, and those were on budgets and quick, and you're on site all the time. And then I worked for a developer, and I was designing hotels for them, but they were design builds. I mean, I learned a ton through that, designed my first hotel, and what their needs were. And then I realized, oh, I don't know that much about the brand. So then going to just, I think, like, understanding I didn't know what it was, but being willing to kind of take a role in a job, or to go out there. And I seem to only take jobs where I don't, like, I've never done that before. And I'm like, oh, let me do this. I don't seem to take another role in, like, in another place. Like, I was like, oh, I haven't grown a hospitality team before. Let's go do that. That sounds great. Um, I will say it's not the easiest path to take, but I think that is what's given me kind of all of that experience, and how it's kind of all come, to fruition. I think this has been a really, um, fun journey at B2 thus far, and kind of learning and seeing kind of all that stuff come together has been pretty interesting. Not I didn't I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't foresee that it would all come together like this. I didn't foresee that experience of that ownership group or that experience at Tony G or this experience at Marriott, all those coming together is kind of what has made this role be really successful for me. Um,
And when you think about the strategic growth that you're hoping to achieve or you're achieving, but as you plot it out even a couple of years out in the future, where do you like what's the vision for the different silos of design projects that B2 does, and how does your role in hospitality help achieve those long-term goals?
yeah, I mean, our long-term goals are pretty, I mean, we have B2 is very, we're very goal oriented. So we've got like a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, and a 10-year goal. So, I mean, I have mapped, I know exactly what part I'm playing in all of that. And I think the other thing that I really enjoy being a part of is being kind of on the leadership team that's like part of those decisions and part of like how we get there, and having a voice in, what the growth is. And that is, um so, I think we definitely want to grow and keep, I think being diversified has taught everybody a lot. And so I think, like our procurement, having procurement and multifamily, senior and student, and then expanding into hospitality just makes sense, right? Expanding into those adjacents. What's next? What are we going to, what are some different things? We have a lot of different things that we think about of
Mm.
adding to an adjacent product line of whatever that is, like whether we or warehousing or installers or anything like that that we're gonna kinda add will just end up complementing exactly what we do, kind of gobbling up more of that scope, I guess, right?
Well, actually, I think you like having Amber on board and having the design function for hospitality and the purchasing function. There's not many firms that have both of those under one roof, and there's some really exciting possibilities with that. And I've been working through some of. I wrote an article on Substack the other day, but just time is money, right? And you can shorten a project by 11 to 22 weeks, in my experience, and it's just all about how to do that. We have to have a separate conversation about that because it's been this amazing kind of thought exercise that's turning into real meaningful change within our industry. And I'm lucky enough to have worked on 3 projects like that. I'm on my 4th. But we'll talk about that on the flip side.
Well,
But
I think but it's true, right? I think it is I mean, the conversation between the procurement and the designers is just, like, free flowing, right? They're
Mhm.
teamsing each other and getting the answers. They're not emailing or picking up the phone. They're just, like, back and forth solving whatever those questions are because we're all in-house, we have all
Teamsing.
our yeah.
I thought you said teasing each other. I was like, wait, how does
No,
that work? Oh,
teamsing. They're just
teamsing. Okay.
teamsing, right, messaging each other back and forth because they can. They're just instant messaging back and forth
Mhm.
because they can. And then, and I think for the owner, we've worked really hard on that relationship. Not hard, but like we've they trust us. They were like, Steph, what should we do about a procurement agency? And I was like, we've just added this great team member. Let me introduce you to her. Let's talk about it. Right. And we're pulling in, a team to kind of help us with that. And so that's, how we're kind of getting it all done. So we've pulled in a complementary team to help us with that, kind of like how we would do with the branding as well. So they trust us. We're already in the room. We're already having the part of the conversation with them. I would have recommended procurement firms to them anyway. I think
Mm.
they would have asked us because they trust us. And I think that to me that's the real win for me. And then it's a real win for the company. Right. And so I
But
think
also, having that function internally is great as an option, but you have such a great network that whether sometimes ownership groups want to keep them separate,
yeah.
right? And which is great, and you can be agnostic about that, but at least you have options and good options, and you can act as a filter for who you've had good experience working with in the past. I also I when you said you're very goal oriented and you have the 1 year, the 3 year, the 10 year, I'm same thing, drink the same Kool-Aid. The 10-year goal is often terrifying, right? But it's also the one that can change the most. But I find that if we're all not looking 10 years ahead and being really specific about what we want to be 10 years in the future, whether we get there or not, it helps set the goals. At 3 years become easier, 1 year, and then what am I doing this quarter to get there? Having that really, really, really clear vision is critical for any business. And I applaud you all for being so crystal clear on that 10-year goal.
Yeah, and then we do, we just did like in January we had like our annual state of B2, and we looked back at what we had done over the last 3 years. So we always like harken back to what that is. We look back, we look ahead, and and it feels like, I feel like we have been trudging through mud. I feel like we have been trudging through mud, but to look back on that and to see what we all
Over the
accomplished,
past 3 years.
yeah, as a team
You know what's even trippier? Okay, the 3-year one is good, but if you do that every quarter,
we do it every quarter.
it's
We do it every
amazing how much you forget what happened
Yeah.
over the past 3
We
months. The
we
good, the
do it every
bad.
quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, we totally do it. We do it every quarter. I mean, we do it every quarter. We look back. I think that the transparency, we're super transparent with the teams about like what we do, where we are. They all know where we are. They all know like where we're hitting financially, where we're hitting with they know the pipeline.
How do you look back over the quarter or the past 3 years? Is it do you use sticky notes and like post them up on a wall, or like how does everyone share
Yeah,
their
I mean, we have
memories?
a lot of different systems. We have a CRM, we have a different platform that we kind of like have meetings, and we can track it there. But we do the quarter look back as we do a big 3-hour meeting once a quarter where we kind of do a presentation and we look back and we look ahead, and then we send that out to the team and we archive that so they have all of that. So even when I do that and go back and looking at it for what our team has done, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And you forget, I think it's just nature, right? That you kind of, you get something or you do that and then you move forward to the next thing, but you forget to pause and take a minute and look back. So
No, it's really
it's been
important to do
really
that.
good. And I think Allison is really good. What she's really good at is pushing all of us past that comfort zone point of like where that goal should be. And I'm like, "Whoa, like, I don't think we can get there. I don't know. I have
She's a
doubt."
good
But
coach.
she's a good coach, right? And then I look back on it and I'm like, man, you were right. That is, you're never going to get there. She's always like, we're never going to get there unless we put it out there, like you're saying, right? And I think um, this has been the first time in my career where I have been at the level that I'm on the leadership team, that I can be part of those conversations. I can talk about them. I can reverb about it. That part has been really fulfilling for me. It's also been the hardest part of this job by any means. So I find it to be, I will say that to everybody, whatever is really, really hard is probably going to be the most fulfilling and probably what's going to teach you the most.
Totally. I agree. And I think that's a good place to leave it there, because I think if anyone else wanted to learn more and connect with you on just connect with you, learn more about you, also learn about B2. This is, I mean, it's just incredible what you've accomplished just in the short time. How short has it been? It's been a couple of years now. How many?
It's
2
almost
years.
2 years exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. And so if someone wanted to learn more about you or B2, what's a good way for them to get in touch?
I mean, any of all the same things. I'm on, Instagram, LinkedIn, email, text, whatevs.
Great.
I'm around, I think. And
And
if
we'll put that in the company website and all in the show notes. So you guys, everyone who's listening or watching can
yeah.
easily click and connect. Stephanie, I want to thank you for being my first fan.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. And I appreciate our friendship and all the things, right? I think it's just, yeah. Oh, and somebody told me to never bum rush somebody on stage. Like if they come off a panel, don't run up to them right then. Don't be that girl. And I was like, oh no, but that's Dan. I'm totally gonna be that girl. I
I
think
would say whoever gave you that advice doesn't know what they're talking about. Always
it's
go.
like,
It's
but that's
greatly
part of
appreciated.
me. And look, it's good. Look at what's happened.
I
And
love it.
so
I love it. And I wish you and B2 boundless success. I'm so glad Amber's there with you. Can't wait to feel like I've met Jimmy at some point.
I feel like if you haven't talked to Jimmy, you should. I feel like
Yeah,
Amber and I think Amber's perspective on where she is also
totally.
amazing. She's got some amazing experience. So
I can't wait. Well, and thank you all to our listeners as well, because it's, I don't know, I feel like anything is possible. We all don't lose sight of the fact that we all have our own unique set of skills. We all have our own incredible network, and we just have to. I don't know. Jesse Jackson just died, everyone, and I remember seeing him in college. He came to my college and talked to us, and at the end, he made everyone yell, "I am somebody," and it was like weird at first, and then everyone started shouting, "I am somebody." And I get goosebumps still to this day thinking about it. I wasn't planning on bringing up Jesse Jackson, and I don't know what made me think of that, but I'm just going with it. But just know we all are somebody and we all can
Yeah.
accomplish great things. We just have to have the vision, and we have to not be afraid to be that girl rushing up to the stage after a panel.
Yeah, just do it. You never know what it's gonna lead to. You never know.
Yeah,
I think just know that you have good skill set out there and you're the right person to be at whatever your next.
totally.
So
100%. And if this has changed your idea of hospitality, designing for hospitality, delivering for hospitality, awesome. Please like and subscribe and do all that stuff. But if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, please do me a favor, pass it to them, because I think in this time we all just need to like lean into each other and share our life experiences so that we can all grow together. So with that, I wish you well, and I will catch you next time.